This video is not just another film about the Tunguska event. This is a story of an extraordinary adventure deep in the Siberian wilderness.
Полностью. Давай. За то, что мы добрались. А здесь у нас все есть.
When it comes to remote and inhospitable regions, there are few that come close to Siberia. The province spans more than 5 million square miles, equivalent to 77% of Russian total landmass. Yet it is home to just 40 million people, making it one of the most sparsely populated areas on the planet. Its vast size and long, harsh winters mean travel within Siberia can be difficult. Roads are cut off most of the year, and boats are only usable during short periods when rivers are not frozen solid. So there is only one way to reach most of its villages and settlements, by air. One of those settlements, Vanavara, is notable for being the nearest populated place to the site of the 1908 Tunguska event. The locality, as it exists today, was founded in 1932 as a base for herders, hunters and fishermen, as well as location for a weather station. Vanavara is located on the Podkamiennaya Tunguska River in Evinsky district of Krasnoyarsk Krai, Russia, and it's home to about 3,000 people. The only way to reach this settlement is by air, and Vanavara Airport is serving as the transportation hub for other villages. The easiest way to get to Vanavara is by flight from Krasnoyarsk. The flight lasts for about 2.5 hours and costs about 70,000 rubles, but then you will miss all the adventure. Traveling around Siberia should be anything but ordinary. So what is the best way to get to the area where the biggest explosion in the history of civilization took place? If you are into adventure like me, then the best way to get to the center of Tunguska event is simply by walking through taiga. Vanavara is located 60 kilometers from the explosion epicenter and is the closest habited area. Although Vanavara is not a big city, it is a good starting point. Except the airport, the settlement has also shops, Ivenk Museum and even a hotel. The Ivenk region is an almost undeveloped point of Siberia. Therefore, in a village of the banks of the Podkamiennaya Tunguska, tourists are rare. However, the place that is practically lacking of all the tourists' benefits can be experienced as an original adventure that is impossible elsewhere. The Evenk people are the most numerous and widely scattered of the many small ethnic groups of northern Siberia. Evenks numbered about 70,000 in the early 21st century. A few thousand lived in Mongolia, and the remainder are almost equally divided between Russia and China. They are separated into two distinct cultures: hunters and rider-breeders. Traditionally, the Evenks were organized in clans, tracing their descent along paternal lines. The members of a clan had a communal fire and invoked common ancestor spirits in the prayers. Each clan was led by an assembly of elders, including the clan shaman, whose duties included healing the sick, traveling in the spirit world, and prophesying. Notably, the word shaman is itself an Evenk word. Today, there are about 400 Evenk people living in Vanavara. The taiga in these lands has always been rich in furs and fish. Therefore, according to one version, the name Vanavara comes from a combination of two Evenk words: Vane, pray, and Vare, to kill. There is another version which says that the name is based on the Evenk word Andam, which means to exchange with each other the most valuable for oneself. And this version has also a root of truth. You will be overwhelmed by the hospitality of various villages and settlements you will encounter on your trip. Travel efforts will be rewarded with extraordinary experience and memories that will last a lifetime. Vanavara is a quiet village. One cannot find an ordinary tourist map, except perhaps a topographic map of history in the street names. Ulica Meteoritnaya, Ulica Upachana, from the famous historian of the North, Ulica Kulika, from the first researcher of the Tunguska phenomenon. In the central square of the settlement you can see the Tunguska monument. Winters are cold here and temperature can reach minus 30 degrees during the day. The best time to visit this region is from June until August-September. Thanks to unique climate, in summer Vanavara citizens can raise watermelons and lemons. When planning the trip, please remember the prices in Vanavara shops are expensive because everything has to be transported by air. The Tunguska Nature Reserve is located in the southern part of Venke, near the Podkamienna Tunguska and Chuni rivers, and occupies an area of about 3,000 square kilometers. The reserve has been established only in year 1995, but its history is linked with the long-standing Tunguska phenomenon. On June 13, 1908, at 7:14 in the morning, according to the local time, a fireball flew over the sky. Its flight was accompanied by sound and lightning and finished by a powerful explosion, with further felling of trees in interflow of the rivers Kinchu and Kushmo. The explosion was at a height of 5-10 kilometers and was followed by an earthquake and blast waves. Effects of the blast were felt thousands of miles away. Fluctuations in atmospheric transparency were recorded across North America and through Europe and Asia. The night sky was so bright that a newspaper could be read in its light for weeks afterward. The epicenter of explosion can be seen even today. Thousands of fallen trees with their roots to their center. The first person to reach the event's epicenter was Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulik, together with a scientific expedition. When Kulik and his team finally arrived in 1927, almost 20 years after the explosion, what they discovered shocked them. Trees at the epicenter stood vertically, scorched and stripped of their bark. Further out, trees were toppled over on their sides and pointing away from the center. In fact, the explosion leveled 80 million trees over 820 square miles of forest. But what could cause such a violent event? Today, the most favored explanation involves the mid-air explosion of a large meteoroid or comet. At about 28 feet above the Earth's surface, many scientists believe a chunk of rock or ice measuring tens of meters across broke apart from the heat and pressure of the atmosphere. Traveling at a speed over 33,000 miles per hour, this explosion would have created a shockwave about 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Directly below the blast, the trees were stripped but remained standing because the shockwave would have been traveling vertically downward. Further out, however, the shockwave would have been traveling in a more horizontal direction, explaining the vast area of flattened forest. This scenario would also account for the lack of crater. It is thought that the impacting body would have been torn apart into small enough pieces that no large chunks reached the Earth's surface. Except the scientific explanation, of course, there are dozens of other explanations, including a tiny black hole passing through the air, a UFO crash, and even Nikola Tesla experiments. In fact, in Vanavara you can talk to local residents and find out that some of them also believe in aliens or Tesla version. According to Ewing's people belief, in 1908, in the form of an iron beard, the even god Agdti descended to the ground spewing fire. Tunguska Reserve is definitely worth visiting. There are a number of summer environmental routes, including hiking, water tours, tours with landing from a helicopter. The tourist infrastructure is well developed in the reserve. Izbushkas, wooden houses, are suitable for living in, cooking and forest recreation. The trekking from Vanavara to the Tunguska epicenter takes 2-3 days, one way, and will give you a sense of real adventure. Traveling to these remote areas of Russia can be anything but ordinary. You have to invest a significant amount of time, effort, and even creativity. But even then, your trip can go not as planned. Therefore, flexibility and the willingness to adapt is absolutely essential.
Линда, Линда, Линда. Вот, у тебя уже обед. Был завтрак, сейчас обед. Линда, на. Погоди. Держи.